Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome to Nightlight, everybody. So glad you could join us. This is Neon Twilight with Solaris BlueRaven, and tonight we're going to be dipping into Manly P. Hall's book again, Teachings of All Ages. A great book for everybody to have, a great book for everybody to look into, and Solaris and I are discovering so much stuff that we didn't know we knew, or that we can expand upon, so that it's an opportunity for us to grow and hopefully drag some of you along with us as we go. So welcome to your show, Solaris. I'm really glad this is another chance we have to stretch our brains, so to speak.
That's right. Welcome. Yes, thank you, Barbara. It's always a pleasure to be here with you on Nightlight and Neon Twilight. So yeah, this is going to be fun.
Actually, you know, the title that we had for tonight is The Mysteries and Their Emissaries. And I think, you know, before we go too far into this, we have to kind of talk a little bit about what we're talking about. And this is not a religiously focused element of our program at all, because when we talk about the mysteries, we're not talking about religious mysteries. We're talking about philosophical, cultural, psychological, the mystery schools, as they were, that go back to the beginning of time, and the people who were involved in the mystery schools are very different from the religious prophets that we've talked about over time. So it's kind of we kind of divide here. There has to be a division for people to understand. We're not talking about religious people. We're talking about spiritual, mystical people. And the term that he uses in a couple of places, which I personally really like, is initiate teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do too.
So that and again, you know, so many times we have a term that we associate with, and then everybody decides to use the same term, so it doesn't really apply anymore, so that, you know, we have to find another term. But initiate teacher rings a bell for me, because it speaks of people that have been initiated into a mystery school, and the mystery school, it had to do with alchemy, it had to do with magic, it had to do with telepathy and with miracles and with knowledge and with wisdom, and you know, it has nothing to do with religion.
Absolutely. Yeah, it mirrors our spirits, and to some degree, in my opinion, anyway. But yeah, I think religion is kind of put you in a box. It's that construct, and this is expansive. There's no glass ceiling with mystery schools, in my opinion. Anyway.
Well, and you know, when you know, and we'll go into some of the ones that he mentions because they're fascinating, but you know, when they talk about magic connected to the mystery schools, they aren't really talking so much waving a wand and making a stick into a snake. They're talking about telepathy. They're talking about out-of-body experiences. They're, what we today would say are spiritual aspects of an energetic that we utilize within our reality. We're not talking a magic show. We're talking a utilization of energy in order to manifest certain potentialities that the human spirit has and carries.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, mastering consciousness comes to mind. Mhm. Yeah.
Because
right up my alley.
it's yeah, mine too. And I think that the term magic is something. Now I call magic what we do, but so many people associate trickster, with tricking people into thinking they're seeing something they're not. And when we talk about this kind of magic, it's utilizing skills and powers that everybody has, but not everybody uses. And these mystery schools have been around, gosh, since the beginning of time. I mean, oracles at Delphi, and I think one of the things that is so amazing is that when you get these, I wouldn't even call them master teachers. I like the term initiate teacher because it infers that they are schooled and they are wise and they are equated with Pythagoras and Socrates and Plato. These are extraordinarily intelligent people who have philosophies that go beyond the mundane, and it's in many ways I do compare it to at least Christianity, where we had a wise teacher in Jesus, and what did we do? We killed him. So it seems to me that this is what happens to the initiate teachers. And those that have the greatest wisdom and are revered by pharaohs and kings and rulers and stuff like that. They don't have real good track records as far as life goes. That having the kind of wisdom and knowledge that they have seems to almost invite people into being frightened of them and then, of course, ultimately killing them, which is what seems to have happened to a great many of them. And have you found any of that? Not that people have tried to kill you, though I have to admit I've had a couple of death threats myself. So, but having the ability to utilize the potential that everybody has access to, for some reason, makes people afraid of you. Yet they come to you for your wisdom and your knowledge and your expertise, and yet there is in many cases a little bit of leeriness and fear, so that having these skills isolates you tremendously.
Yeah, it certainly does. Well, I think they're intimidated. I mean, even when I was a martial arts instructor, my students were intimidated before they got to know me, just by my energetic, my demeanor. But I find that the knowledge, the gnosis of understanding, whether it's mystery schools or just expansive, education, people are very intimidated, and those who aren't can be very jealous and envious. They can be combative, and see it here today. We kind of look at that, the persecution aspects of attacking someone or calling them demonic when they have a gift, falsely accusing them because of jealousy. But then again, when they wind up taking somebody down, they'll take their information and run with it or rewrite it and utilize it for themselves in their own inner circles. I've seen that before. We even look at it through the timeline of history, or his story or her story, but that has happened before. So I find that interesting.
Well, I have found being in this field is isolate.
Absolutely.
And that's okay. That's okay. But for some reason, having skills and wisdom tends to make people leery of you. And what is it about humanity that that while it will seek out the wisdom, it's also afraid of it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's their social engineering and their belief systems. You look at the construct of where they've been, and we can go into the religious world, but that is a belief system that's very hardcore. It keeps them in a box, in stasis, so to speak, and they don't move out of that box. And then when you present something else, which is based on a higher level of consciousness, they tend to be fear-based, or just maybe even a sense of guilt as they start to explore these realms, which I find very sad. But I see it all the time, even today's society. They don't want to grow, they don't want to evolve. Not everybody, but it seems like there's a great amount of people that just don't want to move. They don't want to keep moving into higher or onto higher levels of divinity, and I find that such a sad situation, because that's the only way you really learn, is to evolve and find your pathway spiritually, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, yeah, I agree, and it's fascinating in that while these initiate teachers, these wise people through time, and there are a couple here that I find fascinating, it boggles my mind that, here all of these people seem to be very sincere, very genuine. They have wisdom that goes beyond time, so that they obviously are able to tap into universal energies and universal wisdom and the connection with the divine. And yet they for some reason are marked almost. It's almost like there's a mark on them. And it's like, use them at will, but don't trust them.
Right.
I mean, I found that some people were afraid of being around me because they thought I could read their minds.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, they're intimidated.
Well, yeah, but the reality is, can anybody do that? Sure, but there's a sense of it's not appropriate to do it without somebody's permission. I mean, it's just not. So you don't. And it just, can you read everybody's mind? No, of course not. Well, maybe you can. But again, it's something that you just don't do.
Yeah, there's a protocol. There's an etiquette, so to speak. Yeah.
There is, and it's philosophic, it's ethical, it is religious and scientific, and what is amazing is that these emissaries were gifted in all aspects of life, whether it was mathematics or whether it was alchemy or whether it was history or whether it, they could speak of time frames in history in which it was almost as though they had lived it, and maybe they had. So it's a matter of having a wealth of knowledge available to you and be willing to share it, and yet people still don't trust you. And it was a time, I do believe, pre-flood, where there was a time frame where people trusted each other. There was a greater a community of it was a history world was a community. There was one language. There was one people, and there was peace and harmony. And yet, as you move forward in time, and then of course we had the Ice Age and the flood and all of that. When humanity came back into existence, there were these initiate teachers that seemed to crop up in places. Now, did you get a feeling as to, are there that many initiate teachers now, or are they around? And I think at one point in time, someplace in this material, he said something to the effect of, there are initiate teachers around here, but you won't know them because they're keeping to the shadows, so to speak. They're not because they're afraid of. Well, they may be. I mean,
maybe cloaked, a little bit cloaked. I think I was cloaked back in the day. I look at us. I don't know about you, but I was pretty cloaked before the induction in 2004. I mean, I was doing my work, but I wasn't that out there, in a sense. So I had my own work that I was doing hardcore. But when I look at that idea behind that, I find that beings like us are initiated teachers to some degree. We're old ones. I don't say that with ego or arrogance. I'm just saying it's a history. It's a celestial benchmark in our cosmic blueprint, in my opinion. So we can look at it like that. I think there are plenty of us here. And I also think there are too many wannabes, the people that are doing the hijacking of the New Age community, excuse me, and that kind of thing that's going on. So, but yeah, I think they're here. I think we've been on and off planet several times over. But it does seem like, regardless of what we leave here as a benchmark for the revolution, whether it's through our books, our teachings, and just being here as light, they just take so much. They kind of consume it. They activate a little bit at the DNA level, and then they just go back to sleep. And I find that this is what's going on and on. I don't know about you, but this is how it feels to me. It's like the teacher that teaches them, and all of a sudden they learn a few things, and then they forget. So it's practice, or constant repetition of positive enforcement and keeping yourself educated. And I don't want to give a lecture, but, you just don't just read a few lines and then just think you're activated and enlightened. And it's a long journey. It's a process, and I don't see many people trying to do that. I'm not saying that's a question. I tend to go in another world, so.
No, that's all right. I followed you. I think what bothers me is that there are so many of these quote-unquote schools out there that will give you a certificate and say you have been initiated into the whatever, and they infer that you now have the power to do all sorts of things, and it's crap. I met someone a while back, and she was all excited. It was on a Sunday evening, and she was celebrating because she had just finished a 3-day workshop, and she was now a shaman. And I said to her, she said she was a shaman, and I said, what tradition? And she said, the shaman tradition. And I said, well, yeah, but there's different, there's Peruvian, and there's there's Native American shaman, there's, lots of different kinds of shaman. What kind are you? And she said, I'm a shaman. And I said, okay. And what is your philosophy? And she said, well, and she pulled out the certificate that she'd gotten after 3 days, and she said, this certificate says I'm a shaman. And I said, oh my goodness. I said, please don't brag about that, because a true shaman will not respect this piece of paper at all. Shaman are recognized. They are not initiated. They are recognized by their work. And it's a title that people give them because of how they do their work. It's not something that I said, I'm sure you've learned something in this 3 days, but it doesn't make you a real shaman. And she said, well, this certificate says I am. Yeah.
Well, there are classes. I've done attunements. I have to tell you, though, I've done attunements on people where I give them certificates, and it's an attunement, and that is legitimate with my teachings and my initiation where I've been, and so as a master teacher, I initiate them. So it's not the same, obviously, but there is, I have no problem giving certificates for attunements, but yeah, no, it's a journey, it's progression, and you just don't do it overnight. But I find that there are some people out there who really do have the gift. Usually when they have the gift, they don't need to seek.
Well, and that's, what I'm finding is if people truly have the gift, they don't talk about it. And if they want to charge money for the gift, then they talk about it, and then they don't have a gift. So
I don't know, because I charge for my fees. You know where I stand. I've given stuff away over the years, and this is where I come from. I've given things away. I had a lot taken from me, and then I started teaching for my time. And yeah, I do charge for my sessions, and I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. But it's just my own preference. But it's real. And the data is real.
No.
So
I'm right with you on that. I do readings from time to time, and I do charge for them, but it's different when people are going to hang out a shingle, and it bothers me. Now it's just me, and it's my opinion, and I think I have the biggest problem with people saying, I'm going to charge $400 for a reading, and I said, what can you tell me for $400? It's worth $400.
Well, yeah, there's a lot out there. I mean, if you look and see, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, if they're going to give you lottery numbers and they come in, okay, but
Well, a lot of
But
that, again, if you look at it on a different level, it's consultation too, in my opinion, and at least where I come from. It's more of an analysis. It's a lot of therapy, a lot of different levels. So it's not just about reading.
Absolutely.
It's more about a consultation and connection to, well, someone in between the spaces.
Yeah, no,
I don't want to say psychology, but there is an aspect to it that is an analysis where we're walking them through certain worlds and decoding information. At least that's the way I work.
I call it spiritual counseling.
Yeah.
And in that way, it's like, okay, you have these lessons. How can we deal with them and make them easier and make sure you don't have to do the same one again? And what is the lesson here? And it's stuff like that. But it's just, these days I'm seeing so many people who live by, the psychic fair, or live by, my reader says this and my reader says that, and it's kind of like I'd rather be the teacher of the philosophy than somebody that's, telling them what's going to happen next week. And, son of a gun, if it happens, terrific. But,
right, yeah. Well, you have to give them tools. Yeah, no doubt. No, I understand that. And I do that analysis, and then I'll give them information connected to tools and how to empower. I think that's the biggest thing is that they need to learn how to do it themselves. But once again, they need to seek somebody out to get that information, and that's part of it too.
Absolutely. Well, and that is the biggest thing, that learning how to do it yourself and learning how to find the portals within and learning how to open those portals and how you have to love yourself before other people can love you to that extent that you want. There's so much. Yes, there's so much that can be given to people so that they can take on the cloak of it themselves and do it for themselves. And that to me is exciting. When somebody actually, just says, help me find the tools, and then, aim me in the right direction. Absolutely go for it. But these initiate teachers that are so incredibly wise and amazing. I have found, what did he say? He said that these initiate teachers, have been around since the beginning of time, and he says here that individuals constitute the present spiritual, intellectual, and ethical standards of the human race, and that they're there, and there's a purpose for them, and they're links of a hermetic golden chain, which I thought was beautifully put. And it's sort of like, taking the ancient wisdoms and whether they're from the Emerald Tablets, or whether they're from the Hermetica, or whether they're from wherever they're from, but taking the ancient wisdoms and bringing them forward into this time frame and helping people to understand how they can make their lives so much richer and so much, more fun, is amazing. And I don't know how Manly P. Hall got all this material together. I'm totally blown away by the amount of material that he's put into this book.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He spoke of a number of these initiate teachers, which I thought was amazing. And the very first one he talked about was Hypathia. Is that how you pronounce her name? Hypathia. Had you heard of her? I had not.
I had not heard of her until I read it through this book. And I felt bad for her.
See that?
Sounded like a brilliant woman. Once again, attacked for her knowledge and gnosis and accused of falsely. It sounds like she was falsely accused. Hypatia, is that what you said? I think that's how I would say it.
Yeah, Hypathia. She was a central figure in the Alexandria school of Neoplatonism. Famed alike for the depth of her learning and the charm of her person, beloved by the citizens of Alexandria, and frequently consulted by the magistrates of the city. I mean, this was an amazingly brilliant woman, well-schooled, well-trained. I mean, just you name it, and she was so well-loved, and they said that let's see, she was a personal disciple of the magician Plutarch and versed in profundities of the Platonic school. She was brilliant. And what else they say? She eclipsed in arguments the public esteem every proponent of the Christian doctrines in northern Egypt, and her writings perished at the time of the burning of the Library of Alexandria, but some of her material is still out there, and I mean, she's quoted, and she was murdered. She was, they, and not in a good way. I mean,
and it's interesting. It seems like they're entity possessed, right? These people that go after her, it seems like they're just entity possessed, jealous. Who knows? But it's amazing. Yeah, she was not a good situation for her. The brutal crime. Well, they said she was. They accused her of being a sorceress in league with the devil, which I thought was interesting because that always seems to happen whenever there's a woman involved who's intelligent.
She also performed miracles, and but see, the thing is, her miracles were really a demonstration of the natural laws controlling phenomena. So her miracles were not, a burning bush or talking out of thin air. They were utilizing her energies, the native, what is available in nature, and bringing forth cures and helping people to have a better life. I mean, her magic was natural magic. It wasn't it wasn't occultish, and yet, I mean, even bishops and everybody thought she was phenomenal, and then, she's remembered in history as a virgin philosopher. I don't know what virginity has to do with, but as a virgin philosopher, and there are testimonies to her virtue, integrity, and absolute devotion to the principles of truth and right. So we're talking about a way of life here. We're talking about
good character. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she was spectacular, and they were not kind in the way that they took her out.
Right.
She perished in
dragged her from her chariot.
415, and she was noted as the greatest woman initiate of the ancient world, and she's. I mean, it's amazing. Even they say that the Catholic Church sort of has how do they say it? They are saying that quite possibly she may have been canonized as Saint Catherine of Alexandria. Though that wasn't her name, but she really, So what happens if you have a true loving, caring nature, you're wise and wonderful, and you share everything you have with the world, and you help to heal people, and you help to bring resolution to confrontations and things like that? So you set yourself up to be killed.
It seems that way, doesn't it? That's unfortunate.
Yeah,
it's a pattern. It's been a historical pattern here on this Illusion of a World. I'll tell you, it's the same whether it's male or female. These great minds, these brilliant minds were always censored. Their data was always stolen. They've always been butchered, murdered, assassinated. I mean, this goes on. And I find that there's a threat. There's knowledge, gnosis is a threat. And also, if you can see beyond the emperors and the kings and the queens and the people who think they're in the illusion of power, they're going to be very intimidated by that. The ignorant, the one thing that they did mention with this Hypathia, the person that attacked her was very illiterate, and they put emphasis on a savage and illiterate man. So I find that interesting because, if you don't have gnosis, if you're not evolved, then that's going to put you in a space of defense and low-order entity control, in my opinion. This is where spiritual evolution creates balance and harmony, right? So, I think it's sad, but we see it today. Persecution is every single day. And if you bring in data or bring something onto the timeline that people can't digest, if they can't digest it, they don't just reject it with grace. They usually attack. So, yeah, it's unfortunate.
That's true. No, and you know, it to me, in seeing this, it just not that I am equivalent to this, but I can understand how she must have gotten great joy out of sharing her wisdom and being able to, you know, share it and give it away. I get the feeling that she didn't she gave it away. She was not in any way, shape, or form, you know, charging great things. She wasn't after power. She was after wisdom. And because she gave away the wisdom, she was vilified, and mob rule is really, especially, you know, in what, 415 AD. I mean, it took nothing to get a mob going and say, let's kill the woman, and you know, and off they went and did it. And I mean, what a loss, what a waste. And then to have of course, the library burned, which was one of the biggest tragedies of the ancient world, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, they had so much material there. It boggles the mind, and you kind of wish that there was a way to you know, while we can do distant viewing, and while we can do out of body stuff, and we can go back to that time frame. I mean, you can see tablets and stuff like that, but you can't really read them, and you know, it's sort of like, what a waste, what a terrible, terrible waste.
Yeah, it's been sanitized once again. Even back then, they had sanitization by the way they treated certain places of knowledge. So sad. I mean, but there's still the mob rule here, and we still have it today. Unfortunate, in other countries, I mean, that aren't as civilized, in my opinion, there's still that going on. You'll still see it now and then. It's going to pop its ugly head up. And now they're doing it more on a political scale, so you still have those mob rule under political titles. So, yeah, it's still going on. It's still going on. Hence the catacombs, you know.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of data there.
Well, you know, it's today when we see the riots and everything, and people just senselessly burning down their own neighborhoods. It doesn't make sense. I mean, it's like something. I'm beginning to wonder if, you know, during World War II, the government sprayed LSD in the New York subways to see how a crowd would relate to that kind of exposure to LSD. And I'm wondering if something is going on with some of the riots that we've seen in the last couple of years, if something was being sprayed with aerosol or something to incite riots where before we wouldn't have had them.
Highly possible. I would say more directed energy weapons, but something that would actually stimulate them on a more neurological level. But yeah, I mean, you think about the meth and the drugs that were coming over the border. I mean, a lot of stuff is beyond LSD, in my opinion. I think there's something else going on. But yeah, certainly reeks of that.
Well, when you take a look at, you know, Hitler had his entire army on methamphetamines. And then we did something too that was similar but not as addictive. But no, there's something. I keep getting the feeling that we are going backwards. That we are going back into those times of crusades, even of warring against one another.
I totally agree.
It doesn't make sense to me, and I love this other guy. So Cagliostro.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Is that how you pronounce his name, or is that?
I don't know. I'm saying Cagliostro. What did you say?
Cagliostro. Okay, good.
That's good. Okay, let's go with that. That's a hard one.
Let's go with that one. You know, there were no Smith and Jones for that. That's for sure.
That's
right. Here's another guy. He was brilliant. He was a noble. He was educated in Arabia. He was well versed in, branches of philosophy and science and transcendental arts. That would be magic. And he was put in jail as a charlatan. His miracles were declared to be, Letterman, and his generosity suspected of utter motive. He was a count.
Suspicious of him. Yeah, there's once again envy, jealousy. He might have rubbed somebody the wrong way who had some kind of political power. It's all you never know really what's going on. Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was profound, but he was again. He was famous for not only, I love this, not so much for what he'd done, but what was done to him.
Right.
And so, yeah, and then they said that wasn't really his name, and then they said it was, and I mean, it goes on, and his behavior is what triggered the Reign of Terror, the Inquisition. So, again, somebody who, one of the charges against him was that he attempted to found a Masonic lodge in Rome. I think
that's interesting. Pissed off somebody.
Yeah, but they also say that he may have escaped and fled to India, where his talents were received with greater appreciation.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, it seems like they do go to India quite often for sanctuary.
Well, India seems to be a place where the mysticism is just phenomenal. I know. Are you familiar with Nicholas Rorick?
Mm-hmm.
He traveled, in Tibet and all over India, and he was very into the Indian mysticism. And actually, he was an artist and a lawyer. Bad combination, but he at least he wasn't killed, But this guy was, and then but the one that I of course love the most is Saint Germain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Saint Germain is he's just phenomenal, and actually there's a whole series of books written about Saint Germain, and I can't remember who wrote it, but Hotel Transylvania is one of the books that was written about him, and the attributes that they say about Saint Germain actually fit in, and this whole series of books on Saint Germain they have him as a vampire. And what's interesting is Saint Germain wouldn't eat with other people. He didn't drink with other people. He was well versed in music and poetry, and he loved diamonds, and he was a painter, and he spoke German, English, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, French, and Piedemontes with a kind of accent, Greek, Latin, Arabic, Sanskrit, Chinese, and he was brilliant, and he knew about everything. He said, what is it they say, that he possessed uncanny knowledge of every occurrence of the preceding 2,000 years, and his reminiscence he described in such intimate details, it was almost as though he had been there.
He strikes me as a time traveler. Yeah.
I do believe he was, and then whoever the author was of this whole series of books, it was fascinating because actually the whole series of books, it followed him through time, and all of the books were historically accurate, so you really learned about the different periods. And he was the hero of the book. He was not, he wasn't Dracula-like. But he was a vampire, and he and so many famous people said they knew of him, and he predicted all sorts of coming events, and he sort of appeared in and out of history over a huge amount of time. So, you know, he did not come to a bad end because there's no, says here, wait, he had various names in his interests of the political secret service work, which historians have presumed to be the major mission in his life, that he was a spy for everybody. And he may well have been, but I mean, Prince Rogowski, and, you know, he had several different names, and he was seen all over the world. And what I found fascinating was that that his behavior would actually have been that of a vampire.
Well, what's also interesting is that he was able to teleport. It sounds like he was able to navigate in and out. People would see him here and there or bilocate. That's what they described to some degree, where he would be able to, he did not use the doors. It sounds like he was very advanced as an avatar, so however you want to say. Yeah, I see him as a time traveler, but something very supernatural about him, no doubt about it. So vampire, yeah.
Well, he was also an alchemist. So that he was able to do all. Yeah. And but he, I mean, Frederick the Great, Voltaire, Madame de Pompadour, Rousseau, Chatham, and Walpole, all of whom knew him personally. Unbelievable. He's a connoisseur of pictures as well. But again, and the telepathy was amazing. And you're right, he did teleport. He was all over the place. And here's the other, another good whatever. He was regarded as an important figure in early archives of the Freemasons. Which, so it's kind of like, were these initiate teachers, these are they all time travelers? Are they all put here to help put information into society so that society as a whole can grow? Is that their purpose? I mean, let's face it. If you know what the history of people in that particular genre is, they get killed. They're not appreciated. They're killed.
Right.
So what does that say about humanity if when someone who comes forward with amazing knowledge and wisdom and is willing to share it and teach and help people to expand consciousness and does so for a period of time, why is it that society turns on them and kills them?
Yeah. Same old storyboard, isn't it?
Yeah. And, it's sort of like, were I a time traveler, I would decline the opportunity to do that because it seems to me, I mean, I think it's wonderful if you can skip through time and you can help society take that next step in evolution. But Saint Germain was back, I can't remember how far back he goes, but he doesn't go back that far. We haven't had any, what I would consider, okay, so we're in the 1700s, 1742, 1745, 1789. So the late 1700s into the early 1800s. But there doesn't seem to have been anybody in the last couple of hundred years that you could say was, no, wait, I take that back. What about Nikola Tesla?
I was going to say Nikola Tesla. Yep, he would have been the one. He's definitely a time traveler, and he was not from here. Yeah. He actually, what we're dealing with, and everybody knows it, but all the technology of today, the military, everything they're using that's weaponized is his design, most of it. He's brilliant.
Uh-huh.
That's somebody who was off the rails when it came down to technology and consciousness and amazing abilities.
And look what they did to him.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I mean. But then look what they've done. They've taken advantage. They've made money at his expense and suffering. Once again, this happens all the time. You see how patents get stolen and hijacked, and all of a sudden it gets put into a different department. But yeah, it's unfortunate. They attack those with no sense of understanding, and they use it for themselves with greed, without evolution and consciousness, and it doesn't benefit the planet. Actually, everyone suffers in the long run. This is what they do here. That's why I'm like so burned out on a planetary scale here, because it's like, wow. We've done a good analysis here. I mean, as walk-ins, as spiritual beings, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're doing here.
Just,
sometimes.
Well, yeah, but I mean, when you look at how amazing these people were, and how the kind of power they had to share and to you know, to help enhance humanity, and it was, you know, society was much different back then. It was more simple. It was, you know, there wasn't the kind of communication there is today. And here, this is interesting. I don't know if this is Saint Germain. Francis Bacon is another of the two. And they talk about. Okay, so this was I think they're talking about. Is it Saint Germain or is it Calestro? It's Saint Germain. He practiced, you know, yoga and stuff like that. But he said at one point that he was going to remain in India for 85 years, and then he would return to the scene of the European laborers. And at various times he admitted that he was obeying the orders of a power higher and greater than himself. What he did not say was that this superior power was the mystery school which had sent him into the world to accomplish a definite mission. But it doesn't say what that mission was, and says that the Count de Saint Germain and Sir Francis Bacon are two of the greatest emissaries sent into the world by the secret brotherhood in the last 1,000 years. So, are we talking about the Brotherhood of White Light? Or are we talking secret brotherhood, another kind of secret brotherhood?
Right. Yeah, it sounded like the one that we were talking about before, the white, the Great White Brotherhood. Definitely something interesting with that.
Well, it's just it's fascinating because they keep pulling in the Knights Templar as well, which I find fascinating. And you know, the first 3 degrees of Freemasonry are, you know, kind of simple. It isn't until you get into the higher orders that any sort of mysticism is shared, and I would imagine that it's after you become a 33rd degree Mason that some of this material is shared with you or given to you or whatever. But I'm not sure that Freemasonry is this great brotherhood that is you know, here to give to society the kick in the pants every now and then to kind of move into new directions. And you know, what I found fascinating actually was that you know, after saying that you know, there hasn't been anybody around in a long time, then it comes to the episodes from American history. Which were you as fascinated by that as I was?
Yeah, I resonate with it quite a bit.
There are two situations that they cited that something unusual happened, and one was in 1775 when a mysterious man turned up when they were trying to decide the description of the flag that they were designing for the colonies. And apparently George Washington and Benjamin Franklin knew him. He was there when they were creating the flag, and after it was, and he had so that this mysterious man was very dignified and courteous and gracious, and the other part was interesting. He ate no flesh, fowl, or fish. He never used for food any green thing, any roots or anything unripe. He drank no liquor, wine or ale. But again, this sounds like
Saint Germain.
it does, sort of.
Yeah, the same kind of pattern of, yeah.
And he was patient and persistent, and he was very mysterious. And once they got the flag designed, he was gone. And
yeah, that's very interesting.
And then when it came time for the purpose of deciding upon an emblem, again, Washington Franklin and this guy, he offered some suggestions, and they called him the professor at the time.
Yeah.
And Franklin was a philosopher and a Freemason, and he and the Marquis de Lafayette, another man of mystery. Here's more of this golden chain. But then again in 1776, in Philadelphia, when they were fighting for the Declaration of Independence, this man stepped in the middle of a debate, in a loud voice said something, and set everybody on fire happily, and then the Declaration was signed. But this strange man was gone. They don't know who it was. And again, so it's interesting how these people turn up and then disappear. In Washington, where they've got the it's World War II memorial of some sort. It's been arranged so that shadows fall at a certain time at a certain place that is relevant to peace treaties being signed, and it would have to have been a Freemason that was in on the plotting of the ground and stuff like that, and yet we don't know who did it. So that Freemasonry seems to be popping up here over and over again at turning points, and I don't think it's while there's Masonry all over, of course, it's not. It feels to me as though there is. I've always felt that there was another power at work within the world, not just the United States, but the world. And, there is that group that is going for a one world order. That's not the group I'm talking about. There's the group that is manipulating power throughout this country. That's not the group I'm talking about. It feels to me, and while those to me have evil connotations to them. It feels to me that if we get too close to really blowing ourselves up, there will be a voice of reason from someone who we can't identify, and then that person will be gone. And that's, I guess, the better way for an initiate teacher to be, kind of, give them your information and run like hell.
Right, ancient architect. What comes to mind is like, I want to say the tall whites, but the walk-in type of an off-world species type. When you're describing some of this stuff, I mean, the professor in general reminds me of a tall white for some reason. I don't know why. Just somebody, who comes from a different space-time, a being. And that can reflect in the consciousness. It doesn't have to necessarily be in the body. The biosuit is a biosuit. But space-time, they could be walk-ins. They could be very anomalous to the world. I mean, in the sense of just being connected to something else. I mean, you're talking about the mystery schools and the Masons. Everything in D.C., it's all connected and constructed based on supernatural activity and the secret societies of old, in a sense. So you've got, it was constructed very specifically for power, for raising power, raising energy. And that was not an accident. And that's just so interesting because depending on who's there is what's going to happen with the frequency. It's just like anything else, like a pyramid. It's going to amplify that, whether it's positive or negative. And, well, you see what's going on now, but it's kind of a maelstrom at this point. I think that's why the obelisk had that lightning strike. That was not accidental.
Oh.
Did you see that?
No.
Did you see the footage?
No,
wow,
when did that happen?
It was a couple of weeks ago, I think. It just wasn't that far away. I would say a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, that was an omen. I said that's an omen. When you get things like that, that's not accidental. That's somebody's pissed off.
Well, I would say that over the last probably couple of decades for sure, there's been a lot of stuff that in the past would have been just so far underground that we never would have noticed it, and now it's right out on the surface. And it's right in front of us, and that aspect of what happened to the laws, what happened to you see, and I don't want to get too far into politics, but you see things that are definitely against the law and or treason, and they're not published and they're not punished, and yet they're right out in the open. Everybody can see them. So I don't understand.
It's interesting. It's like capture the flag over there, in my opinion. So I eventually the architects will come back, in my opinion, to settle the score. That's just my own take on it.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, somebody said to me, "Oh, we're going under," and I said, "This country has survived far worse than this.
More.
It's not pleasant. It's not fun, but I think that the power struggles now are no longer wars as much as it is power struggles and manipulation of individuals. So that I think that, as far as I can see, while we're in for a very rocky ride, I don't think it's not the end of us for at any cost. But we're coming to a time where happily people are waking up, and I'm not saying they're woke. I'm saying they're waking up and they're questioning, and they're coming to a time where they want answers, and they don't want just generalities. They want answers with proof. Just don't say I'm taking care of it, but show me how. And it is going to, in my little corner of the world, it feels like we're going to have to reorganize the whole government. That it doesn't work anymore.
It's going away. Well, at this point, they're becoming so dominating in the sense of control and manipulation and not honoring universal free will, way beyond God's version. I mean, universal law, universal free will. Because they're encroaching on that to such a degree and they're giving no ultimatum, that's going to be a problem by universal law. And it's going to have to be reset in the sense of they want their reset, but really it's going to be about reconstructing their entire corporate governments will no longer exist, in my opinion. I think the religions are going to go too. Eventually all that's going to go. It has no choice.
Well, yeah.
It's obsolete, in my opinion. It's obsolete.
Well, yeah, I fired everybody a while back on Facebook and, told them to all pack their suitcases and go home, that they had forgotten who was paying their paycheck, and it was me, and I wasn't happy, and I fired them all. And I thought, oh, I'm going to get really, people are going to, be offended and upset. Not one comment. I mean, and it was like, so everybody's okay with this, I guess. And it's just me that is sitting here saying,
they're intimidated.
Well, that could be.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just say that we did have to recreate the United States. See, my other thought is I do feel that the boundaries of our states is going to change.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be manipulated and changed over the next couple of years for sure. But if we were going to set up another form of government, I don't think the election way works.
No,
because
they're cheating.
Yeah. And now that everybody knows you can cheat, who can trust the election way again? So
it's remotely manipulated. I mean, electronically, too.
So if you and I were going to set up a new form of government, what would we do?
I wouldn't have corporate governments. I would leave it to councils of light. I would have councils of light, and what will be called the illuminated teachers or initiated teachers, probably. Those who are beyond the benchmark of religion, indoctrination, programming, and corporate government, and all that snake oil that goes along with it. I don't even think we need a military. I mean, the military has abused their power, and this is globally. I'm not just talking United States. I find that things do need to change. They need to change with galactic consciousness, and in order for that to happen, everything has to go. Everything. So I don't know. I mean, it would be, if I want to reconstruct this place, it would be an ascended world. I'd love to.
Oh yeah. But the only one.
Sure.
I don't think we have the power to impose it on other countries, but I see us coming more to a time where there is a council that takes care of stuff, that there's no head of it, but it's a council where everybody has an equal vote.
And not the Council of Foreign Affairs, Council of Light.
No.
We're talking about celestial beings. None of these people here, no, they blew it. They're fired. You like to fire, I like to fire too, and they're all fired as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
We'll take it from here.
No,
and I say we as in consciousness, higher enlightened beings. We'll take it from here.
Yeah. They all seem to have been corrupted, which I am blown away by.
Right. Well, then it boils back to what we were discussing with this book, too, in these chapters of how power corrupts, but also how they're threatened by people who are evolved and enlightened, who want a better world or want to bring wisdom and enlightenment that brings in more productivity on a higher level of consciousness. Look what happened. So, yeah.
What happened to that lady who was a spiritual? She ran for president. She didn't run very long, but do you remember when they had debates and she was up on the stage? That she?
Yeah, I do. She was pretty cool, but I don't remember her name, and I'm not sure where she is. I remember though. She's kind of new age.
We should hunt her down and get her on the show.
Actually, you should. Yeah, absolutely.
Because it seems to me that just nothing works anymore, and
it doesn't.
and it seems that we get 2 or 3 different dictates in a day that contradict each other, and it's like give me something stable, give me something. What was it Benjamin Franklin said? Well, we have a republic if we can keep it. Well, I don't think we're doing too good at keeping it.
No, I've been working at it, but yeah, a lot of people don't want a republic. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I come from an old lineage too, and I think that has something to do with that internal fire. My ancestors were there, they were there.
Mine
I have
too.
that. See, there we go. Not an accident.
Mine too. No, actually, my grandfather was partially due to women getting the vote. So, and we were, but I have ancestors who were Minutemen. during the Revolutionary War. So
did they come over on the
no.
Mayflower? Your family?
Some of them were here to greet them.
I was going to say also because we came over on the Mayflower. Yeah.
I'm wondering, I know that incarnation-wise, there are a lot of people who have incarnated during this time frame on purpose because they've been through the same type of. This is a birthing process, and labor pains hurt, and labor pains are. I speak from experience. Labor pains hurt, and the process of birthing a new reality for humanity, at least in the United States, is going to be a hurtful process. And I don't think it's going to, I think that we're in for a long labor, probably another, anyhow, 4 or 5 years, because I don't see any major changes happening within the next 4 or 5 years. I think we're going to see, as far as I can tell, gross miscarriages of justice all over the place, until finally there is a, that guy from that movie, who stuck his head out the window and said, "I'm ticked off as hell and I can't take it anymore." Yeah. I think
that's coming. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's coming. The fire's here, in a sense, and you're seeing it, honestly, at the rate things are going and the way this country has deteriorated the past few months, in my opinion, I think that it's going to be less than 5 years. We're going to look at some really strangeness coming this fall and this winter. I don't know what your predictions are, but I'm finding they're calling it a dark winter. Well, it's going to be a very interesting winter, and I find that you'll see things more clearly by April to really get a benchmark as to where we're heading and what's going on. But this can't continue. This has to stop. We're at the edge of the black with what's happening in D.C., in my opinion, so something's got to happen. Something's got to give there.
Well, I think that there may be I don't know what they call it, the states independently getting together to make some changes. I don't want to see the United States broken up, but it does feel in a way that's what's going to happen because there are so many good people in every damn state. You can't just say, because a state is red or blue, that they're good or bad. But there are good people everywhere. And I know a friend of mine, was teasing me that Tennessee had militias all over the place, and we do. So that militias are going to be called up quite possibly. One thing that's really confused me is that, for years and decades, they've talked about the 800 FEMA camps that have been set up that are all across the United States. And every time we've had a major emergency, none of them have been activated, just none of them. And so my thought was, well, what about putting some of these people coming in? Marianne Williamson, thank you.
Yeah, that was from Jerry. Thank you, Jerry.
Yes, thank you. I will hunt her down and get her on the show.
That'd be great.
Well, no, I will hunt her down. I will, I can't.
Oh, I know you will.
I can't compel her, but I can be very I can be very persuasive. But my thought was, why not? We have 800 FEMA camps all across the country. Why not open up some of those camps and put these poor people that are starving and that have walked for 1,000 miles? Why not put them into these camps and process them from there? Why turn them loose?
I mean,
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, they're not even testing them for COVID. I mean, why
No, they're not.
Why didn't they give
That's a red
everybody a
flag.
shot as they came across the border? Just
Well, this is my point.
vaccinate them.
Well, thing is, they're not having to take any injections whatsoever, no vaccinations. And what's interesting is there's certain people that are exempt over there in the D.C. area, and this is giving me a very red flag sense with my spider sense that, only for select groups of people, and certain people are exempt, and now people coming over the border are exempt, and they could be walking biohazards. So, yeah, there's a problem there. A lot of problems, a lot of negligence as far as I can tell. And then the fact that they've all disappeared, I mean, they were over there, and all of a sudden they've been moved around. We don't know where they are. They're within the United States somewhere. We have no idea if they've been vetted. So, yeah, interesting stuff going on right now.
They'll all come back they'll all come back to be processed in a year or so when their data's up, right?
Who knows? I mean, at this point, I don't think they'll be processed at all. I don't think they were processed. I think it's a matter of just kind of just looking at them and pushing them on through. That's processing.
But
that's what they're doing.
But we've got these FEMA camps. We could have shoveled them all into the FEMA camps. They would have gotten food and water and, facilities, and they could take showers, and they could stay there. And the other thing, I was talking to somebody who does UFO stuff, and they were talking about aliens, and I said, we have to stop calling visitors from other worlds aliens, because the term alien has been used, for these people that are coming across the border. So we have to call them non-terrestrials.
Well, I'm not changing my book title, Alien Intelligence, for that, so too bad.
No.
But yeah, it's hijacked. Everything gets hijacked, all words, It's just ridiculous. Oh, well. But yeah.
But no, I
call them
a whole,
anyway, usually.
Okay, but, a whole bunch of people were released here in Tennessee. And, to where? I mean,
I think some went to Chicago. I know that, the kids, the little ones. And what's interesting is that I don't know why they would put them over there. I'm not sure about that. But I know quite a few of the Afghanistan children. I think they were sent over to Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. I saw that on, I think it was Fox or something.
Well,
and they're not, I don't know where the rest of them went.
But what amazed me was they took 14,000 people, and in one day they got rid of them. What did they do with them?
Well, it's not Soylent Green, so they're here. Look around. They'll stick out like a sore thumb. I don't know where they are. They'd probably have to drop them off in a really big area so that they would kind of blend in, but I don't think that's the case. I don't know. They could be at the military bases. That's another place they were putting them, which doesn't make sense to me at all.
I am getting weird feelings of eugenics coming back in again.
Mm-hmm.
And in the, 1940s, 30s, 40s, we were practicing eugenics, and Hitler thought that it was fabulous, and so that's how he took notes, and he created his final solution from us. And my feeling is there's a greater proportion of people of African descent that are dying of COVID. So it feels like it may have been manipulated towards people who were non-white. It's kind of like,
I'm not sure.
When the no, I'm sure on that one. I checked the numbers.
You are?
And the numbers of those who are non-white are far greater than those who are white who have gotten COVID and died of it. So there's something genetic. I got a shot. I got it. I wasn't able to spend. I moved 1,000 miles to be close to my son and his family, and when Easter came, I couldn't be with them because I hadn't been vaccinated.
Yeah.
So, so I succumbed to.
You took the bullet. You took the bullet.
I did. I bit the bullet, and I got it. However, I won't go for a booster shot. There's just no way.
I don't think you should.
No, I strongly feel there's something. I mean, I'm 77.
You sound great.
Oh, thank you.
And you look great,
but
too. Well, let me ask you something. Did you feel anything? Or have you noticed anything unusual since you've had that?
no,
Good.
I got a feeling. Actually, it was so weird. My son took me because, new town, knew everything. I didn't. I said just find where I can get the one-shot deal, and I'll go make the appointment and take me, and I'll be fine. And he did. And I heard so many people say, well, your arm is going to be sore, it'll be swollen, da-da-da-da-da-da. And then the next day, I called my son and I said, did you actually see them give me the shot? And he said, yeah. And I said, I have a Band-Aid, but nothing's red, nothing's swollen. I'm wondering if they took a look at me and said, well, she's so old it doesn't matter, let's just give her saline and save the whatever. And
that would be good.
Well,
you have different DNA too. You're a healer, so that's part of it as well. You could alchemically change it, in my opinion, for your own frequency. I still think that's a capability.
Oh yeah, and since the very beginning, I've been taking D3 and zinc, and I've been supplementing my diet tremendously. So, but. And most of those people that we saw get shots, on TV, I will promise you they did not get a vaccine. They got saline.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. Absolutely.
I mean, so, it just, I know there's something underhanded here. I don't know what it is.
Oh, I know too. And if you talk about it too much, they'll cancel things. They'll take down videos and sanitize. And yeah,
that's
no,
why
I mean, as my radar does not miss a beat. Let me tell you something, and I'm sure yours doesn't either. And I see things. Yes, absolutely. I see plans within plans, as they say in Dune. The movie Dune.
Well, the thing is, to have released something like this is so stupid because there's no way of controlling it.
Well, even if they have an antidote, it's still a war crime. Yeah.
Well, haven't the Chinese changed their rule that people can now have 3 children instead of 1? They must have decimated their own population tremendously.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. They're hurting.
But
the bioweapons is a bad run. It's just no good. And that's not something we do off planet. I mean, the integrity, once again, we're getting back to integrity on this world. This is inexcusable, this agenda. Even the fact that it even was deployed, or they're even working on this in labs, is inexcusable. It shouldn't be happening on this world. Not at all. I don't care. No. You don't use biochemical biowarfare on anyone or anything. And the fact that they would even consider that, and they've deployed it, is to me the largest universal war crime you can possibly imagine. And anybody who's in denial of that really needs a wake-up call. They really do.
Oh, totally agree. And the thing is, I know that if you put the question to our military, they'd say, well, we have to do it because the other side is doing it. And I'd rather see them, put their energies into a way of giving good health to everyone,
Yeah, why don't they use those patents from the Royal Rife Medicine? Some other things, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, why don't we use frequency healing in med beds and frequencies? And once again, the bioweapons system and the virus itself we can use ultraviolet frequencies, we can use all kinds of things that would actually neutralize viruses if it was a true virus. But I do know satellite-driven technology weapon systems can create that psi virus, so to speak, and create a version of a virus through technology. So, yeah, I mean, they could have flipped it and turned it in the other direction. They're not. This is what I mean by the misuse and abuse of power on all levels is being shown to us right now on a global scale. It's inexcusable. It's not in alignment with the universe in any form. It's rogue.
No, and you even look at the schools and what the schools are doing. I mean, I'm an ex-teacher, and school teacher, and I have been so infuriated by what the school systems are doing with the kids these days. It's just, if I had a child today, they would be homeschooled.
Agreed.
Because what the school systems are doing is just horrendous. And prior to this, they were teaching to the test and not teaching wisdom. And and they have never been teaching accurate history, so that our school system is a failure, horrific failure. And the corporations that print the books are controlling what goes into the schools, and it's not accurate anymore.
Exactly.
And you know, it's sort of like, well, too bad. You know, kind of correct. Give a good thing of bio of Columbus. Talk about what he actually really did. Talk about the fact that when the Europeans invaded this country, invaded is the word, this country, they destroyed cultures that were far more advanced than they were. And that if they had paid attention to the spirituality, they would have understood that it was far and above the Christianity that they were trying to shove down these people's throats. I mean, you know, in almost every aspect of life, for the last several hundred years, we have had the opportunity to be wise and spiritual and kind and peaceful, and we have chosen not to be. And I don't understand why.
I don't either, but I find it to be connected to the DNA code and consciousness. And there are beings here, what I call species. I think everybody is not the same. And you're dealing with frequency, whether they come from different space-time, whatever, where some are more advanced than others. And that's just the way it is. It's not a judgment. It's just an analysis. And then you can tell by the way we shine, the way we communicate, the knowledge we have, and the way we're sharing it, opposed to people who are way opposite. So, yeah, there's a lot of polarization going on between that. And I don't know if it's going to ever resolve itself. There might have to be a split, like we've talked about ascension splits, where you actually go into two different space-times, and those who are vibrating at a higher level of their own divinity move into the new space-time, and the others maintain in another one, where it's like two ships that pass in the night. You know, you literally are just in two different parallel universes. And honestly, we're already living that, even though we're eclipsing each other throughout the day, you know, as a mass collective. I see that happening.
Yeah, I agree. It just, to me, is... if you lose all of the spiritual people, though, then who's here to help those that remain behind?
Well, that's the thing is they don't want us here. They don't want us here. Well, do we have an option? If you maintain yourself here and you bring the light, you share the light, what are they trying to do? Snuff it out and snuff us out with it. So we're not wanted, apparently. I don't know where this is heading on that level. That's why I say split insofar as maybe a different space-time and moving on and ascending in. Doesn't mean we have to transfer out physically. It just means we're going to another level. And I don't know. I mean, the ones that are left behind may be the ones that just don't have it within themselves to learn anyway. I don't want to sound cruel or anything. I'm just saying that we can't be the saviors to mankind if they're not willing to pull themselves up and save themselves.
But you know, it's unfortunate, but it is ignorance that is the stumbling block. It is the inability to open yourself up to the probability and possibility that there's something else and there's something more. And you have these huge corporate entities that control, I don't know what percentage of the population, but it's a huge percentage. And like I shared with you earlier today, I wrote something for the website, and I shared it with you because I got such a backlash on it. And and it's sort of like, even spiritually speaking, it's people don't want to expand their consciousness, to realize that there is a greater, larger dominion out there, and that we're a part of it, but we're a part of it that we aren't recognizing, and because we don't recognize them, they wait for us to grow into knowledge of them, but they don't want to grow into it.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't even know if they have it within themselves to do it. Yeah.
Well, the dogma and the indoctrination that so many organizations have over the people that are a part of them is phenomenal. It's I beat my head against a stone wall every now and then. It's like, you know, ponder this, think about this. Is this a possibility? Not, and you get to the point where they say no. And it's sort of like you have to back off and say, if that's your reality, then I honor it. You can't, I mean, you can't shove things down people's throat. That's not appropriate. But if you can give them the possibility of something and they chew on it, if they chew on it for 10 years, if it works on them slowly and subtly on subconscious levels to eventually come into consciousness, that means that eventually they'll become more enlightened and more aware. Not that I know, the absolute whatever, but I know other levels are out there, and I play with them, I work with them, I visit them. So I know that they're there, and if they're there, why not talk about it? Why not discuss it? I mean, you and I could go on for hours and hours and hours and hours, and on the potential that's out there, and yet people just don't want to know. They literally are afraid of knowing there's more, and I have trouble understanding that. I really do.
Yeah, I do too, in a sense, because I see the obfuscation in the false matrix. I see the programming. A lot of it, you can say mind control to some degree, definitely imprinting people and putting a spin on their own personas. I mean, they don't even know who they are. I think half of them probably don't really understand the consciousness aspect of soul, spirit, evolution, incarnation. They don't get it. They have to really go dive deep into the mystery school teachings, and this is where we get into the ancient mysteries. And it's funny because secret societies, they had to go black to some degree because they were being persecuted. They were being murdered. They were being attacked. I would go black too. I would go underground too if that was a way to secure my knowledge. And you find that, a lot of people say, well, that's so suspicious. These people just, well, they were constantly being persecuted. It's amazing to me. So, and even this day, you still get trolls are not that way, but it's, you know what I mean? We still have that persecution spin that happens.
Uh-huh.
Keep your nose to yourself until the seeker shows up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I used to open my show with "I'm Seeking the Seekers," and then somebody sent me a CD of the Seekers, the vocal group, and I thought, all right, so maybe I should stop using that as my intro. But basically, that has always been the purpose of Nightlight. Nightlight is supposed to be a light in the darkness. It's not it may not have the answer, but it can give you stuff to think about so that you can open to whatever is appropriate for you, and that's the point. Just think.
That's great.
And in many cases, also, it's a matter of, you don't have to agree with everything that's on these programs at all, but if it makes you think, if it makes you search, if it makes you look inside of yourself and find out where your truths are, that's the point. My job is done. So it's kind of like, it's important that you and I do things like this where we outrage people, and if we outrage people, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm
Put
fine.
some fire in the belly, right?
Sure.
Agree to disagree if they don't, that's what it's about. It's about agreeing to disagree. I hope people can grow into that again, because somewhere along the way, people can't even coexist like that. They have to argue. So,
yeah, I was having
exist.
No, I was talking with somebody, and we were debating, and they started to quote me chapter and verse from the Bible. And I listened respectfully, and I said, now what does that mean? And they repeated it verbatim. And I said, I got it. I heard exactly what you said. What does that mean to you? And, they looked at me blankly. And I said, you've quoted chapter and verse. What does it mean? How does it pertain to what we're talking about? Give me your impression. How do you evolve it into this
Interpret
time
it,
frame?
yeah. Right.
And it was like, I wrote something a long time ago, you can be a parrot or you can be a prophet. A parrot will memorize and repeat verbatim and not even understand what they're talking about. A prophet will read the same material and then incorporate it into their own mindset in accordance to whatever the reality is they're in at that moment in time. And then they will speak their own truth, which will be part of the past and part of the present and hopefully future. And that's the person I want to talk to. That's the person I want to say.
Universal translation. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we do.
But Oh yeah. I mean, I think the cool thing about the show that I do with you here is that we don't have all the answers. And, at times we seem absolutely lost in our material, and frankly we are. But it's kind of like we're slogging through a lot of this material while both of us have read parts of maybe all of the sacred teachings of all ages, but talking it over with another person and getting into where the information leads you is a whole other thing. And it is so unbelievably exciting to talk about, what this means and where does it go and what does it mean to the times we're living in and how can we apply this to our reality. And it helps me grow. And I'm so grateful that you've decided to spend this hour with me once a month, 2 hours with me once a month.
Oh, my pleasure. I enjoy it. I always have fun. This is always fun for you and I. And Secret Teachings of All Ages. I mean, it is interesting. It's one of those books you have to really double, triple read in a sense and really decode. But you know what I noticed, that there's Secret Teachings of All Ages, online where you can read it. And I think I might have sent you a link. But there's one that the CIA library has an archive of this. And I'm like, CIA, so go figure, right? What are they doing with that?
Well, it's fascinating in that you would think that they would be doing nothing with it, and yet the Vatican has a whole group of people that all they do is prophesize. I mean, the U.S. government was into remote viewing, and they probably still are. You were involved in MK Ultra. I mean, again.
Well, it was actually synthetic telepathy, psychotronic weapons, but it was a version of, but a different program, Sci-Spy. Yeah, it is a spin-off of MK Ultra, but not the same.
Oh, okay. But the thing is, the powers that be have been trying to utilize people with skills and talents, and happily they haven't been able to do a very good job of it because this is a spiritual gift. It has nothing to do with war or espionage or anything else.
They weaponize everything. It's always about control manipulation. Yeah. They never learn. That's my point.
No.
They're never going to learn. And in the meantime, they're making a mess. They're like Pigpen. It's like everything is like they're ruining people's lives. They're messing people up, and they're psychologically damaging people. And don't get me started. But yeah, too bad, isn't it? I mean, I should have been on the payroll, but I'm not one of those.
Well, the thing is, there's nothing wrong with peace, love, and one family. I mean, it's a good place to be. And
I agree. I agree.
And I want to get back to Tesla because, I think he was murdered. I think that his material and his patents, they clamped down on him so hard that in spite of the clamping down, he was still doing experiments. He was still working on a lot of different areas. He was working on levitation. He was working on all sorts of amazing material. And because he wanted to give it away, they shut him down, and they absolutely were terrible to him. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there are other people out there like him. And happily, I'm not that famous, so that I don't have to worry. If they shut me down, it's a joke. I'll just do another show another place. So, but
he could definitely change the world. He has changed the world, though.
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of the material that they're using in our the joke, our space program. Our space program is such a joke because there's already a space program out there and has been for decades. But it would be nice if we could acknowledge that space program, actually.
Well, I don't think they'll acknowledge it until they have an eradication done on the world. That's the problem with these people. They want to be bottlenecking everything with a technology that's not even their legacy. They haven't inherited it. They stole it, and they reverse engineered a lot of it, but it's not theirs. And they're not the caretakers, they're not the architects of this world, and they don't have a real good camaraderie off planet. So they're in kind of a bad space, if you ask me, when it comes down to where they're heading.
Aren't they looking to colonize Mars? Isn't that the plan?
Well, they're going to get permission first because, there's all kinds of life forms there. And of course, I don't even trust the imagery coming in from NASA, even though it looks pretty cool. I've remote viewed Mars. I don't know if you have. I mean, yeah, you have, right? You did it with your group.
Yeah.
Okay, so, there's life forms there. There's all kinds of life in between the spaces. And another thing that I always factor in that most people don't look at is space-time. In other words, you can look at something from a different space-time configuration. They're in the wrong trajectory in space-time, so they'll see things very differently from their own lens. But if you're going into a different space-time configuration, you're going to see a whole different thing there. It's going to be very occupied. And I don't think they've looked at that. I don't think they know how. And I'm not giving them the sequencing for that. So I do know that's a capability.
Well, that's true.
And this is what I mean by consciousness and mystery schools. These people have weaponized things. They still are like chimpanzees with tech. They still don't get it. They still don't get it after all these decades and centuries. It's just like, just go away, everybody, and let us take over. Where I'm at. I can decode things pretty fast. I need to look at what they're doing and say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and this is. But why would I want to help them anyways? Because look what they're doing. They're not even showing it to the world. So.
No, and they have a cure for cancer, and they have a cure for lots of things, and they're not sharing it.
Yeah, they cause it with frequency. It can be healed with frequency. Everything. It can be, the frequency. That's another language that Tesla taught us, modulation of waves and frequency, right?
Absolutely.
Vibration.
Yeah, no, it was, and I think what gets me is that I don't know how we got the atomic bomb. I really don't. It shouldn't have happened. That is a weapon that should never be used again. And, I'm cringing. Sooner or later, someone's going to use it again. That we've gotten this far and nobody's used it is amazing.
Oh, I'm sure they've used it somewhere. Who knows? They're always doing underground tests here and there, but you never know what's going on with them. The whole biodome is weaponized, so you've got the satellite direct energy weapons, and they can do a lot of damage, They're worried about global warming, but that's what's creating a lot of problems and anomalies. But go ahead.
Oh, yeah, and I think the thing that fascinates me the most that I keep waiting to learn about is Antarctica, because I know there's stuff going on there. I just know there's stuff there.
Yeah, I'd like to kick them out of there, actually.
Well, and you don't know who it is that's there, to be honest with you. And I know that the Germans were there at the end of the war, but I think there's another group in there now. I think that it's, or it could be very much, like there's a substation here and a substation there, and everybody's waiting for the ice to melt so that they can get back up above ground again. But no, I think there's so much going on that we don't know. And, it would just be so cool to learn some of this stuff. And, I know stuff, but I can't prove stuff. I know people in the military. We have one person that I know quite well, and I love talking to him because I will tell him what I'm seeing, and he'll give me a blank face. But unfortunately, you can read the eyes, you can read twitches, and I know when I'm right. And he keeps saying, I don't know, it's not my whatever. And I look at him, and then a week later, I'll hear that he said to his wife, oh my God, she got it all so right, it's so scary. So, and which is kind of fun. But as far as what's going to happen globally, I don't know. All I do know is that Afghanistan, oh my God. Who would want that area?
Lithium deposits over there.
Is that what it is?
China wants it. Well, that's what I've heard, that there are lithium deposits, huge amounts of lithium deposits over there. And that's something that somebody would want, for sure. I know China's wanting it. And I don't know why we pulled out, because we could have had it too. Once again, I get it, but I don't get it. Just the negligence and the way it was done was poorly orchestrated.
Well, if they were going to use the lithium for healing, if they were going to use it for positive things, yeah. But again, like you said, every new discovery, the first thing they do is weaponize it, which is terrifying.
It's all batteries. Well, the thing is, we have free energy. We have an ether field that's been, I think they've tried to hijack it quite a bit, but that's the idea behind the free energy, right? So we don't need any of the stuff that they're trying to say, even the satellites. We don't need anything that they're trying to utilize right now that they think is high-tech is actually low-tech. And right down to the Internet, which we use for our own, it's our toy. We get to use it, but it's still like telepathy. We blow things out of the water with remote viewing. We can see more than anything in a database here on the Internet. I know you can. I know I can get through firewall. So, it's really about consciousness and motion.
Yeah.
And the idea behind everything is energy, and everything is interfaceable in the sense that we can interface with a lot of different things, including timelines. And the free energy, our soul spirit is 0 point. All these things that we don't even think about, most people don't think about what you are, energy-wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really amazing.
What gets me is that there. I mean, yes, you're right with telepathy. Absolutely. I can send something out telepathically, but I have no way of knowing who is actually able to get it. And so you come to a point where there's going to be a point in time where we won't need the Internet because people will be able to just tune in and they'll be there. But I mean, the only way I know people are actually listening to the show is if they subscribe on YouTube or whatever. And I've stopped really paying attention to the numbers because I know the material's out there and that it's listened to, or it will be when the time is most appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sort of like when I tune into other frequencies and the magic that's there, the wisdom that's there, the insight and the inspiration that is there is profound, and I can do it, you can do it, anybody can do it, and yet it seems to me that it's like clear water. It's not water that anybody has actually been dipping into as much as they could be. I mean, our generation is able to do this. Yes, it takes work. But once you get there, you have access to so much stuff. It's worth the work. Now, can you make money on it? No. I guess
can.
you could. But, well.
I'm an alchemist.
You can. Okay.
I'm not greedy.
Yes, that information. Okay, well, yes, on that level, absolutely. But it's to me, I see the availability of all this material, and people seem so lost, and it's like, come on, the answer's inside of you. The portal is inside of you. The ability to do this is inside of you, and all you need to do is the work, is to understand that you're not on this plane at this time frame to go into credit card debt and spend money and have lots of materialistic stuff. You're here to grow, to ascend, to transform, to move into new levels. And can you have fun along the way? Absolutely. I have to tell you that I have never had more fun in my whole life than I have had in the last 5 years.
Oh, good. That's excellent.
I mean, the people I've met, the people I've been able to talk to, I mean, I am going to school the best way positive. I find areas I want to learn in. I find experts in the field, pray they've written a book, get them on the show, and I have 2 hours of tutoring, free of charge. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, it's nice. You get to meet some wonderful people, don't you? It's cool.
Oh, my goodness, yes. Well, so do you. I mean,
I do. I've had fun also. I do enjoy it. That's why I'm still doing it.
Yeah, it's, I tell people when it's not fun anymore, I will stop. But it is fun. Yeah. And I do love the fact that, I have to read a book a week or whatever. And I love the fact that I'm learning. And, I mean, I have 2 masters, but this is my PhD. I'm getting a PhD in areas that I get to pick. And I'm tutored by the experts in the field. So,
Mm-hmm.
it really, Solaris doesn't get any better, I don't think.
Yeah, that's great. Excellent. And once again, the nightlight shines bright.
Yeah. And the fun stuff is, we put shows up like this where we talk about what's going on in our philosophies and stuff like that, and people do listen, and people do take note, and people do, chew on it and do something with the material. We're not selling cars, and we're not, handing out credit cards or anything like that, but we're putting information out there to float in the ether, and we're making it more personal because you and I are talking about it and sharing our opinions and philosophies, and hopefully we're challenging people to, to see whether or not it affects them in any way. I, do the same type of thing with Mary Joyce once a month as well. Another cool lady who, puts material out there on her Sky Ships Over Cashiers website. So, it really, it doesn't get it now. As far as professional stuff, it doesn't get any better. As far as looking at society as a whole, oh God, it could get so much better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really could. I mean, I could see it. Really, we could switch it overnight if they would just stop this game board.
Well, I said a long time ago that I felt like humanity were pieces of a puzzle, not pieces of a game, and we don't know what the game is, and we don't know what the rules are, and we're being moved around, and we, for no purpose, we don't know why. I don't know what's been, whatever's been happening in the U.S. over the last, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. It just seems so strange, and I don't understand the philosophy behind a lot of it. And, it's the information isn't there to justify a lot of what's going on. So I don't understand. Is it a game? Is it one-upmanship? Is it, you did this and I'm going to now erase everything you did and I'm going to do something else? I mean, if that's the game, I don't want to play it.
I'm not playing the game. I've totally disengaged when it comes to that. I'm doing an outside analysis. I'm observing like a spy bird, but I'm seeing it play out, and I don't care for it at all. It's too immature. It really is. It's like we don't have time and the illusion of this for this kind of stuff going on here. This is stupid. That's just me, but I'm telling you it is.
No, but
all the evolutionary consciousness of tech. I mean, come on, we don't need to be doing this.
I would really like to, not that it would make a great deal of difference, I'd like to withhold my income tax for a year and just say until you start doing stuff that benefits humanity, I'm keeping my money.
Well, I don't think anybody should have to pay that. They're outside collection agencies anyway. They're foreign collection agencies, so technically I don't think people should have to pay a dime.
Well, the Federal Reserve is a mistake, so,
Yeah, anything federal is foreign. It's foreign. It's not part of the United States, really.
It kind of, it's. I'm with great anticipation waiting to see what comes of all of this. I know it's going to be upsetting, and I know it's going to be crazy, and I know it's not going to be comfortable for a while, but I do feel that there is a better way to help humanity move forward. And, as far as all these people that have come into our country, if we can help them, great. But we have Appalachia where people are still living in hovels without electricity. Why can't we take care of our own first?
Mm-hmm. And look at the homelessness in California, Colorado. I mean, everywhere it's off the charts. It's off the rails. So, yeah, they need to take care of their own. Take care of yourself first. Save some energy for yourself and your country first. Then you can reach out. That's not happening.
Yeah.
There's a lot of negligence happening right now with basically treating the American people like dirt. After all these years, people have worked very, very hard, and I don't think that's I don't think that's appropriate at all.
No, I agree with you. And it's like, somebody was talking about slavery earlier on the news, and all I can think of is we're all enslaved. We're enslaved by credit cards. We're enslaved by mortgages. We're enslaved by, we are not free to do and be as we would like to be. And so many people are struggling so hard with such difficulties because, I'm one person and I go to the grocery store maybe once a week, and where I was coming away 2-3 years ago with spending $100 a week, now it's $200 a week. Now everything is so much more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, that's not appropriate. There's abundance in this country. If anybody has ever driven across this country and seen the vast spaces that are open there, there's plenty of room out there. And it's, we're all crowded on the shorelines. Except not me. I'm right on the edge of this, the fault line,
Madrid?
the
Madrid?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes,
well, you're holding it down over
there.
there. You're stabilizing it.
Well, every year I have predicted it would go off, and so it hasn't. So I figure the one year I don't is the year everybody should watch out for, because then it'll probably go.
I'll probably keep an eye on Yellowstone before that area, but yeah, you never know.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, Yellowstone, the animals were leaving it a couple of years back, and everybody thought, uh-oh. But nothing came of it. So,
no.
But they're saying that, a lot of the fires out in California have been started intentionally. And that's horrifying. Why?
Oh, yeah. Because they're crazy. People are just nuts. That's what I mean by, they did it in Colorado. Was it last year? We had a bunch of crazy arson people, too. I mean, they're just off the rails right now. That's what I mean by they're just losing it. I like to blame it on other things. It's global warming. Well, when people are lighting a match, it's not global warming. It's negligence.
Oh, gosh, yeah. But, and the homelessness, I have to go back to that. I have never seen anything like it in California. And then in New York as well, and in Florida. And
Colorado.
I mean, I just...
Colorado's horrible right now.
Are they homeless because they're really homeless, or because they'd rather get money for not working than actually struggling with a job? You sit back and I've worked all my life, and my family has worked all their life, and you get rewarded for working hard, and yet there are people out there with their hands out, and then you see these poor people that you just, they stand by the street and they hold up a sign and we'll work for food. I mean, and you can only donate so much money and hope that it goes to the right places. But there's something wrong when our society is this skewed. And
right, I agree. Well, you look at Hollywood and overpaid entertainment. I said before they should have put a cap on how much money they can make, because to me, nobody should be worth that much money. They don't do anything spectacular. They're just overpaid entertainers or actors, musicians. I never understood that whole arena, how lucrative that business is. And to me, it seems like I think that's one of the real drains. That's the money pit, in my opinion. You've got super wealthy people up there, and then you've got people starving in the streets, and it's way off scale. It's way off balance.
And yet some of them, like, let's see, Oprah has orphanages she supports. Shirley MacLaine does the same thing. There are some of those people that really do put their money to, but not so much that they're hurting. But they do put it to good use. But I just I'm overwhelmed by, and the thing that really scared me was when I saw that 14,000 people were taken someplace and put someplace else overnight. How did that happen?
Well, it's a military base. I think that's the one that, didn't they put them on the military base? I know one did. I think they had a girl get assaulted over there, too, one of their military personnel, one of the Air Force. Was it Air Force? I can't remember now. It's one of the military bases, though. Once again, they brought, just the stuff is already getting nasty, okay? So putting people in harm's way is not okay, and that's what he's done.
No, and I'm all for helping out people, no matter where. I think that nobody should want for food or shelter. They shouldn't. And in this world, there's no reason why any people do. Yeah, but people also have to be willing to work to support themselves. And in some cases, that's not the case. Some people work the system so that they don't have to work, and they just live off the fat of the land. And
that's been going on for decades. Yeah.
I know. So our system of helping those that need help has got to be sort of taken a look at again as well. But that's when we reorganize as a country, you and I, we'll have to make sure that we plan for this.
Exactly it. Well, to start. Conversations are good.
It seems to me that when you figure out a process, and there are people out there that are immediately looking, how do I get around this process? How do I cheat? And that's frightening. That's really frightening. I mean, they settled Australia by just putting crooks in there, and actually they haven't done too badly. Yeah.
Well, the people aren't real happy, but yeah, it's out of control.
But look at too what's happening. There are certainly the hurricane season has been horrific, and there are volcanoes that are erupting, and there are earthquakes that are happening. So Mother Nature is definitely saying, I'm mad, and watch out because I'm coming for you.
Even the moon. Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's sentient intelligence. There's a lot of energy there.
Well, you kind of think we've been left alone theoretically by the non-terrestrials, hopefully so that we find our own way. But sooner or later, somebody's going to intervene, and it's going to be frightening.
Well, if they're making a lot of noise, that's why I kept saying, this terraform rock called Earth, they call it planet Earth, is making a lot of noise right now. They should be careful.
Kind of like be careful what you wish for.
Right.
And the reality is if a non-terrestrial entities come in, they will take over, and we will definitely not be in control of our own planet. And I don't think we want that to happen. Well, we've come down to about a minute here.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Fast.
Very fast.
Fun though.
Let's give out your website and your radio show so people know where to find you.
Oh, they can find me at Hyperspace on KCOR Digital Radio Network on Fridays at 12 midnight Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Pacific, and Raven Star's Witching Hour Saturdays at Revolution Radio Studio A, 12 midnight Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Pacific. My website, nightshadowanomalydetectives.com or .net.
And you have fascinating people on there. You really have great guests.
And you need to come back at some point. I'd love to have you back on the show whenever you're guided to come back. Let me know. Love to have you on.
Oh, sure. Anytime.
I know you're busy.
Anytime you're...
Okay. Excellent.
Oh,
this has been fun, Barbara. Thank you so much. It's always wonderful to be here with you.
It is always a joy. You get to pick the next chapters we go into. It's your turn.
That's going to be hard work. Okay. I'll find something cool.
Okay, great. And so that's it for tonight. And thank you, everybody, for being here with us. Solaris will be back the Sunday before Halloween in October, and we will talk to you then. We will look forward to, Mark has a great show tomorrow. Tuesday. And there are other shows that are on the network, so check out the network on the YouTube channel. And if you like what you see, please subscribe, because that's the only way we know you're listening. Good night, everybody.